back to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. You know, I can remember in the beginning having a very large handful of early supporters who would contact me and tell me how much they loved the show right from the very beginning. And I cannot tell you how important that is. You know what it is. In the beginning of your business, anything you do, you're like, oh, you're noticing, right? And I love how that these people have stuck with me. Or should I say, I stick with them? I don't know. Either way, it's terrific. And one of those early supporters was Lesley Myrick. She was listening to the show from the very beginning, and she wrote one of the best cold pitches I've received to date for the show, and she was just a year into her business. She first came on episode 37, and she talked about how she moved from Canada to California to Texas, first freelancing and then later starting her own firm. Then she came back in episode 584, 4 years later, because she had moved again, starting her business over again in Georgia. Her strategies for how she built up her marketing, reestablished her firm, created a new network and client base, no matter where she had moved, are powerful. And if you are someone who is starting over in a new place, or even someone who just wants to hear about a designer with tenacity and a go-getter spirit, and maybe some ideas on how to revitalize your business right where you are, I recommend you go back and listen to these episodes. Today, though, Lesley is back with a completely different topic. Like many designers, Lesley has experimented with e-design and long-distance virtual design over the years. But now she has taken what she loves about that particular aspect of the business and created a service called Design Master Plan, one that delivers the design without the procurement. And now some of you might already be getting your feathers ruffled at this, right? Not offering procurement, can be seen as controversial in the industry, right? I mean, there's all different ways. But if you listen to Lesley's story, I think you'll not only see why and how it works for her, but you'll also realize that it embodies one of the most important aspects of running a well-designed business. And that is finding what works for you, for your life, for your style, for your personality, for your clients. Okay? Before we get going, I want to take a moment to thank our show sponsor, Revel Woods. With Revel Woods, you're getting premium hardwood and resilient flooring curated for your design and lifestyle needs. They are dedicated to helping you and your clients find the right flooring for your needs. You can use the industry expertise at Revel Woods to help your clients feel that wow factor, right? Visit revelwoods.com today to find out more. All right, now let's see what Lesley's Design Master Plan is all about. Hey, Lesley, thanks so much for coming back to A Well-Designed Business today.
Oh, hey, LuAnn. Thank you for having me. It's always such a pleasure to talk with you.
It is always my pleasure to have you back. Ever since I met you 6 years ago. It's 6 years ago.
I know.
Isn't that insane? I remember getting that email from you.
Bananas.
I know, right? But
old baby designer out on her own, reaching out to LuAnn.
I know. It was great. It was great. I just love it. And I just, it's so funny. I say it all the time. There's a half a dozen or a dozen of you that I really can remember from the very first 5-6 months. I'm a broken record. I say it all the time. Sorry if you've heard me say it. But you don't forget those people that were like, I'm out here. That was a good show. I listened to this. Or like you came in and you were doing those things and then said, and I think I have something to share. Could I be on the show? And it's just crazy how much has happened since then. But I've been loving watching you morph and grow your business. Now, you've been on the show 2 other times. We'll put those episode numbers in the show notes. I highly recommend that you listen to those episodes because you'll hear us talk about how she morphed her business. You'll hear how she moved 2 times. You'll hear how she had a podcast. You'll hear how she does coaching on the side for interior designers. And here you are with something else that's really valuable. And I'm so excited to have this conversation. So here's where we're at. Lesley, 17 years in the industry, okay, is fully capable and does execute full service interior design projects with all the bells and whistles, the procurement, all of the things that go along with it. But Lesley reached out to me recently and explained to me that in this, I would say it's probably this combination of this business climate because of the pandemic, but also with 2 little kids, 4 and 8 years old, that you've landed on a service that you are leaning into called Design Master Plan. And not only is it working and you're loving it, your clients are loving it, and you're just glowing with happiness right now. So this is a big thing, right?
It really is my happy place. It's what I love to be doing without all the crap I don't love doing. And it's profitable and it's working for me. And I'm really happy about that.
And what we're talking about is at the heart of it is that you have made a decision to consciously attract clients and projects that procurement is not part of the deliverable, that you're designing, the design itself is the deliverable. And I know there's a lot of controversy in the industry on if we should do this, if we should not do it. But, I know you do you, lady. That's how you are. And that's why I love you.
Absolutely.
So tell us how it came to be, tell us what you want us to know about the ins and outs of doing it. Get us started on the conversation, Lesley.
Well, I think like with all things in my business and a lot of other designers who have just been bootstrapping and figuring this out, this came after a lot of trial and error and mistakes and goof ups and realizing, that we really have the privilege of making our businesses unique to our strengths for our life situation, our capabilities. And I don't only offer the service, like you said, LuAnn, I do full service as well. But I started my career in 2005 when at that time, as far as I can recall, full service was the model. Like there weren't other options. Clients hired a designer, they did a consultation, they did the design, they implemented, they were done. And that's a great, profitable, amazing model. But a lot has changed since 2005. And I launched my own business in 2015. So I worked under other designers for about 10 years before going out on my own. And when I started on my own, I had that same model, consultation, blah, blah, blah. The steps are all pretty similar no matter how our businesses are set up. And it was like trying to fit round pegs in square holes. That was just how we worked. And it didn't always fit everything. Partial rooms got confusing, or if somebody needed a chandelier for one room and paint for another, which by the way, I won't touch anymore. I hate those projects. But you all know when those clients come to you and you're like, this is like lipstick on a pig. This isn't going to get us anywhere. Back then I would say yes. Now I will say no.
Right.
But, I would try to do full service projects and there wouldn't really be a clear ending point because we were kind of touching, 12 things in 10 different rooms, or, it just financially didn't make sense. And at that time, I didn't have the knowledge or experience to estimate my hours, to give people, here's how long I think it'll take. What I did, which is pretty common, was worked hourly. I would take a retainer. I think at the time it was $2,500. And I would say, we're X dollars an hour. This is your retainer to start. We'll work backwards. And once we get to the end of that retainer, we'll switch to hourly. Well, I could have said that till I was blue in the face, but I'm telling you, I became the $2,500 designer. Every client, when we got near the end, would say, or the end of the retainer, I should say, I really thought you'd be able to get it done in that time. That just seemed like are you able to finish this project for us with that budget?
Mm.
And, naive young business owner, I would say yes. And then I would work 20 more hours for free and hate my life.
Mm.
So, all
Oh,
that to
that's
say,
painful. That's
hourly wasn't
painful.
working great. It is. And, hourly, even when you do have more experience and you can estimate hours, it's still, for me, hourly always opens up nickel and diming, questions, justifying things. And we all know, we've all been there, that anxiety of sending a monthly invoice and feeling like, oh crap, like this is way bigger than I thought. They're going to freak out. We've all had that anxiety inducing moment. So, kind of pairing this hourly model, this failing hourly model for me, with full service that wasn't right for a good number of my projects really got me thinking about other offerings. And like I've talked about on past episodes, I started my design career in Toronto, then moved to Los Angeles, then Central Texas, and now I'm in Georgia. So I've actually been doing virtual and online design for many years out of necessity. And it's really only the past couple years that I'm thankfully seeing clients a lot more receptive and open to it. I think there was more hesitation 5 years ago, but COVID changed everything. And we all know the magic of Zoom and Skype and FaceTime and online communication. So much can be done. And so a few years ago, I came up with this idea working under a coach of doing a design only package. Now, I will say, and I want to talk about what exactly design only means, because this could be a lot of things. At the time, I was also offering, quote, e-design, which we all might know as kind of those cheap and cheerful, put a design together, send a box in the mail, ta-da, your design is done. And then I was doing design only for local clients. But what I found, and again, working with another great coach, coaches are the best. They please take my money and solve my problem. I love everyone that I've worked with.
Right.
But a coach brought up to me, why are these two different things? Design is design. Why are you charging less for long distance and charging
Mm.
more for in person? And which one do you like better?
Mm.
And that was such an eye-opening look at it, because when I thought about it, my three core values for the business are adventure, organization, and connection. Those are really the three filters I put everything through to see, is this client a fit? Is this project a fit? Is this wallpaper I'm picking a fit? Does it line up with our values? And connection is huge for me, and having a rapport with my clients, feeling like we get along, that I understand them and I'm getting to know them. With the e-design, there wasn't connection. It was very transactional. It was, here's your questionnaire, give me your photos, here's a design, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And I realized this coach was very right. Why am I not making this just one service? And it doesn't matter if you're local or long distance, you still get our same high touch, full service level of experience. And then we hand off a complete and clear and easy to manage design package so you can implement on your own. And that's really where Design Master Plan as it stands now is born. So you could call it e-design, you could call it online design. There's a bunch of different words. It's the same package, same process, whether a client is in person locally to me or long distance, with an obvious difference being long distance, they measure and take their own photos. Besides that, we still go through the concept design phase. I'm a student of Sandra Funk and the Standard. I love it. And so her model of doing a concept design phase, then detailed design works great. If they're not in person, we meet on Zoom. I screen share. I mail them samples in the mail. Doing this virtually has not hindered things. And I am finding that not everybody, of course, there's still a great market for full service clients. And I'm not saying that that's not a viable way to do things, but I have found that there are even some wealthier, busier clients who they just want the decision making made. They may have an assistant who can place
Mm.
orders for them and honestly, for a hell of a lot cheaper than I charge. Or they may be perfectly comfortable clicking and shopping online and making it happen,
Mm-hmm.
or bringing my drawings, bringing my renderings to a contractor and working with them to make that plan a reality. So for me, this has really been the sweet spot in my business, because this is what I love to do. The more I do it, the faster I get, the more efficient I get. I've been hella profitable per project because I'm fast now. I've done a lot
Yes.
of these and have a number of years behind me where, I quote a pretty reasonable fee. Like, I'm happy with my fee, and I'm usually under it in terms of hours. I still track all my hours, even though I do these flat fee models, which I think is essential. And this is just where I love to be. It's, a few key meetings with the clients. I always send a weekly Friday check-in email with very quick bullet points. Here's what happened this week. Here's what's coming up next week. Any open orders that might be going, and anything important I need their response from. So they hear from me every Friday, again, whether they're a full service client or they're a design master plan long distance client. And LuAnn, I truly love this model for me. Like you mentioned earlier, I've got a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old. Life is busy. School ends at 4 and my workday is done at 4 when my kid steps off the bus. And so to have this control over the design side and be able to put together a clear package with, floor plans, elevations, 3D renderings, specifications, shopping links to purchase, if we're procuring anything, proposals, I've really got this tidy package I can present to them where there are no questions about how it should look or how it should go. And if there are questions, there's enough room in my fee where I've allowed for a few hours of conversations or phone calls or FaceTimes while they're implementing, to just be that touch point and make sure that they feel confident implementing everything on their own.
Okay, so yay on all of it. Let me break out a couple of things, okay? So first of all, I want to go all the way back up to when you said, the coach said to you, what is the difference between this service and this service? And which one do you like better? Because this is the crux of a lot of the problem. So you have solved the problem for yourself, that this method of doing interior design, of doing the design master plan and lopping off the procurement and not hassling with it, works in your life right now. It works for all the reasons, right? But the thing about it is before that is the question that I have to say a lot of times when I'm working with designers as well, when you said that, I'm like, I've said that 1,000 times. What does this mean? I don't get this. What does that mean? How do you do that? And I think it's very important if you don't have a business coach, right? I often say to people, go ask, your best friend who's in a completely different field, or an acquaintance, or your brother's wife who has no idea what you do for a living, to read your service descriptions and see if they can understand them, because you guys know what you know, right? And you infer a lot of the information in the way you describe your services. And so I love that it's like, what is the difference between these two? And then 100% home run on, and which one do you like better? Because that's really the crux of your episode is, I like this better. And I can do it this way because I run my ship, right? Like I want to do it this way and it works for you. So I love, love, love that you had the help on the clarity on those two questions. And I would encourage everybody to pose those same two questions to themselves in relation to their business and what they're doing and the different levels of services that they're offering. Now, the other thing that I want to break apart is, so if we think about the actual process of this, I understand that you're not taking away anything that we would normally think of as the beginning parts, to your point, the relationship with a consumer. In other words, sometimes when we think about full service includes everything. So it includes the design meeting. If it starts with the discovery call, then the consultation, and then the design meeting, and then the approval on the designs, and then maybe there's a revise or blah, blah, blah. Like all of that before you actually get to specifying. You're not eliminating that. Whereas sometimes in e-design, you're sort of like chopping it up. You're not necessarily putting as much energy into those phases. You're saying, give me your pictures, answer my questionnaire, I'll send you back a design. So this is the point of what I think I'm trying to understand from you is, think of a full service design model, but understand that some of those meetings might take place by Zoom if you're not in my town, and I'm still going to do all the due diligence that I would do in a full service. It's just that when we actually have the design plan delivered to you, I'm just not the girl who's going to order it for you. Is that what I should understand, Lesley?
Exactly. Yeah. The main difference becomes when we are sourcing, figuring out what we're going to be specifying, if they're purchasing, it's a design master plan and they're purchasing on their own, I'm making sure that I am either providing proposals, because occasionally we'll procure things, and we'll talk about that more later about when I will do that, even for design only projects. But, I will go one direction for sourcing for design master plan, knowing these need to be clickable, shoppable links where they can easily purchase. Like, I want to make this simple for people. It shouldn't be a headache to implement it. I should have taken the headache away by doing this for them. Whereas for full service, if we are procuring, then of course I'm putting together a proposal instead of here's your shopping list. And of course, shopping list sounds so crude. It looks beautiful. We make it look great. But that's kind of the main difference is with our procurement with full service, I'm of course making sure I'm getting accurate quotes, shipping prices, like we're doing, as anyone would, a full service proposal for all the furnishings and decor. Versus design master plan, they're getting click and buy links to purchase things directly, and I'm not involved with the buying of the things.
Okay. And I love that. So, and it's important to understand that distinction because, what do we say? Like, it's basically my understanding, almost 800 interviews now, is that you're looking at three kind of phases of a design project. The beginning from hello to design is done, that whole beginning phase, a lot of high touch in there, right? Lots of communications, discovery, mood boards going back and forth, and you like this sofa or this lamp, going back and forth, right? And then it's the final, and then the final is in a full service, the procurement phase and or the construction phase, right? So you're either managing a construction or a build, and at the same time you're now starting to order the sofas, the lamps, and all the things. And then the final phase is, that installation and finishing and all of the stuff. So you're really just eliminating that middle and end phase. You're not overseeing either of those two phases, but the deliverable and the service and the quality of the first phase is not compromised in any way.
Precisely. Yeah.
Love it. Okay. Love it. Okay. So here's the thing. Where I now wonder, and you kind of spoke to it because you said that you have a very good handle on what your fees are and that you're getting better and better at it. So often you are assuming, say, 30 hours and you might work 25. So you feel you're within your, happy to answer some questions that come up. But talk to us about that, because in a regular project, we know where scope creep happens. And it seems to me that this is the place, if you're not as disciplined, not as seasoned, not with 17 years behind you of maneuvering clients. And when I say maneuvering, I mean maneuvering yourself, because you said in the beginning,
yeah,
I charged you for 20 and I worked 40, because that comes from, to our point of Sandra Funk, standing in your space and saying, sorry, you didn't pay for that, right? But so I could see in this model, now you've delivered it. You've given them the links. You've given them beautiful presentation with all of the furniture and all of the things. And here it comes 3 weeks later. Oh, the mason doesn't know where the tile's supposed to go. Or the, electrician is like, how high is the chandelier supposed to be off the floor? How do you suggest that you manage that so it isn't a runaway train? Like, I got to believe it's coming with the agreements up front. Like, how is that conversation handled?
That's such a good question, because absolutely it could be a runaway train. We all know that the implementation, the construction part is where things can go totally haywire. So far, I have not had a client abuse my time on that part of the project. And I have been more than happy to, jump on a 15-minute Zoom call with the client and the contractor, or getting an email. Their installer's here to put on the cabinet door hardware. Where exactly should it be placed? Most of this is on the drawings already, and they can probably look at the renderings and drawings and deduce it for themselves. But I understand there's times where questions do come up. So far, I would say it's only been a handful of hours at best for the implementation questions from clients. I have not yet had it where someone has been, banging down my door or needing hours of my time. And so at this point, it does say, on my website, on the package page for Design Master Plan, that implementation help is available on an hourly basis. At this point, well, at every point, I'm a big fan of the idea of under promise and over deliver.
Mm.
So there's some wiggle room in my fee. I know that I can come in under the hours and be extra profitable. So if they come back with a couple of questions throughout the 3-month kitchen remodel and I can help with that in 15 or 30 minutes, I'm happy to do that as kind of to them, it's an above and beyond service. They know that I will respond. When the design package is delivered, it's not like, bye, never talk to you again. I know there's a process still coming. If there ever were a point where I felt like the implementation questions were beyond reasonable, like, they're needing hours of time or something has changed, if there's a scope change, that is something that warrants a conversation. Hey, it sounds like this project really isn't going as smoothly as you had expected. I would love to make myself more available to you. The way we do that is by, purchasing 5 hours of my time. Here's the invoice. Once we have that, I'm yours when you need me. I think there's ways to handle it where you should not be losing money on this, is the long story short.
Right.
But so far, the questions have been minimal and clients have been very respectful of my time. And I think they just feel like they're getting even more value knowing that I'm really, truly on their side during this process and that I am available for those little questions that they are just struggling with making decisions on.
So here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to push you back a little bit by complimenting you, okay? So what I know is, and you're going to confirm that I'm right. What I think the situation is here is that you are seasoned enough to explain the scope and the deliverables at the beginning with clarity. That's key. Number one. And number two, you have priced the job profitably. So when you want to be generous, you can. And number three, which was just tiny little sentence in there, but let's put how much importance on it needs to be. You're delivering a fully executed plan in detail at the beginning, right? So so here's the thing. Let me take you back to 15, 18 years ago when you charged somebody for 20 hours and worked to 40, right? Think about somebody who isn't clear on this. So here's what could happen. Oh, I thought you knew that once we did that part, I wasn't going to tell you where the cabinetry and stand there while the guy did it. I thought you knew that. Oh, I told you this was the tile for the bathroom, but I never told you what pattern for the tile guy to lay it in. You see, you've got this 17 years behind you and you are accustomed to delivering a high-end complete project. And I just need you to break that down and remember when you weren't that girl and make sure you explain to your peers that those are non-negotiables and that's why this is working. Am I right?
Those are such good points, LuAnn. And you are right. This has come from a lot of screw ups and a lot of lost money over the years. And I want to acknowledge that. I also want to say a huge help with this has been implementing 3D renderings because not only is it a really easy visual for the clients to be like, oh yeah, I got it. It helps me. When I used to just do 2D mood boards, plans and elevations, that's a great model too. But there would be details missed. We think in 3D as best we can, but we can't always communicate that. I have found that adding 3D renderings lets me literally look at things 360 and cut those problems off at the pass. I have to put a tile pattern on the wall in my rendering. What is it going to look like?
Right.
Like, I have to make those decisions. I can't just say, here's a beautiful tile and a grout color.
See, that's what I'm saying.
It's
right? Like until you really forget that you're now doing the renderings, which I love. Okay. But before you really get to the point where all of your system and process are locked down, I mean, I know it for a fact that there are designers that say, here's the name of the floor tile, here's the name of the wall tile, here's the name of the shower tile, here's what it looks like, and all the little cute pictures, but there's no plan for how it's laid out,
yes.
Right? Like, and that's a big gap in the experience that a designer, oh, yes. So I love that. This is possible to do. And by the way, these are the same principles that make success in a project when you are intending to do procurement all the way through. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you assume you're going to do 30 hours on a project, but if, you do not do all of these things, then you are running back and forth to the job site, having a conversation with the tile guy on which way the tile goes, right? I mean, that's how you cut all of that extra down. So, and I love that you're talking about the 3D renderings. We had Fernando Duque on, and he is the owner of Duke Renders. And I literally just had one of my chairman of the board clients put together with Duke Renders a rendering of a primary bath. And I'm going to tell you what, I thought it was actually the photographs of the finished bathroom. So she sent it to me, and I was like, that's amazing. What a beautiful design. She's like, I know. And then like 2 days later, she's like, the clients just signed off on it. Like, how many multiple thousands of dollars it was. And I was like, oh, I thought it was done already. Because that's how good it looked.
Yeah.
So,
And, this wasn't intended as our topic today, but for me, and I know, again, this is another kind of topic where people are split on it, and I respect that. This is not for everybody. But for me, renderings have, the confidence clients have moving forward after seeing a rendering is night and day. There are no questions. I love it. Let's do it. We love everything. Let's order it. Whereas a mood board is great. And, it's interesting because I usually do, when we're at the concept design phase, I'll put together a preliminary mood board. It's pretty fleshed out, but not everything is there, but they can see it. And then when they see the rendering at the end, I had a client in Texas recently. We did a long distance design master plan. She was like, I thought the mood boards were amazing. And then I see these renderings. She's like, she just could not believe it. Like, it was just, we love everything. This is amazing. I've had far fewer revisions and questions since doing 3D renderings. For me, I will say that's part of what makes this work. And every time, LuAnn, here's one of those lessons that I've learned too many times. Every time a client, the fee's a little higher, are there anything, maybe we don't need 3D renderings? And I've done that before where I've lowered my fee and I've taken out renderings, and every time I regret it.
Yes.
It's never the same outcome. It's never the same experience. The clients are never as happy. And now I am standing in my space.
Yeah.
This is design master plan. This is the investment. These are the deliverables. If this is not a fit for you, I would love to do a 2-hour consultation and help you get some of those questions answered. But that's it. I don't have a mid-ground now between my consult and this.
I love it. I love it. And what's funny is I just had this conversation recently, and I can't remember. I think it was at the Window Works Lunch and Learn, but I wouldn't swear to it. But I was talking with some designers, and the conversation was similar in that same thing, the hesitation to build into the price the 3D renderings, knowing, just as you said, that the value that it brings, but then not being willing to, not getting to that spot where you're just like, this is not negotiable, this is included. And I use the example because in window treatments, there are some companies that you can order custom window treatments from and not get installation. You can, have your husband install it, or, your neighbor, whoever the heck you want, right? But Window Works from day one, and I'm talking about, retail to consumer. With interior designer, our trade work, we would never not include installation. You wouldn't come to us if you didn't have us install it. That's silly, right? But for retail consumers, and I've literally had the conversation on the telephone. Oh, so, blah, 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 discovery call. So how does it work? Oh, we measure, we, come out, help you design it. We measure, we, show you the samples, we blah, blah, blah. We, come up with a proposal for you. You sign off. We have everything made, and then we do the installation. And it's always the person that is just wanting blinds, right? Oh, I just want wood blinds for my whole house. I just moved in. There's 40 windows. Okay. When you give me the price, I want you to give me the price with and without installation. And I'm like, no, see, our price includes installation. Right. But my husband, he's a carpenter and he can install them. I'm like, that's awesome. But we don't charge for installation. It's included. Right. And so the thing, and no, but there has to be, the labor that you would save by not having your installer come here, just go ahead and give us the price without installation. Way inside voice. I'm like, lady, my highway. There's, you know what I mean? Like, right. And I'm just,
yes.
And the thing is, we have literally stood in this statement for 40 years. And I finally just say to them, look, your husband, if you insist, can install them, but I'm not changing the price. So I highly recommend that you let us install them because you're not going to save any money with WindowWorks. And here's the thing, if your husband installs them, your 3-year warranty is void. So stop, okay?
Yes.
Go away or do it the way we want, right? But the thing is, like, because we learned also that when, the guy who's the expert that can do it, here comes the call. Oh, 14 brackets were missing and this blind was broken and this string was this. And you're like, really? Was it though? I don't know. You see, I don't know. I can't control the quality experience if I am not controlling the quality experience, right? So I love those of you that have gotten to the point where you see the value of the 3D renders, because as a consumer, yes, it's a slam dunk. I mean, you can give me an idea all day long, but when I'm looking right at it, where's the debate? I want it, and when it's delivered, it either looks like that or it doesn't, right?
Yep, exactly. And I know, I've heard, and I get this too. The other side can be true with renderings where you have to take liberty with some elements of it. But for me, knowing that and being clear with my clients, say the I don't know, for example, like the carpet you see here isn't your exact carpet, but it was a similar texture. They can understand that, but we have those conversations. Right. And I know I've heard from other designers that they've had the opposite, where clients have been disappointed where it didn't look just like the rendering.
Oh.
So, I mean, do with that what you will. I have never struggled with that, and coming in with those expectations of, renderings for me give clients a sense of size, scale, colors, finishes, how things relate. Does it mean that the exact stack of 3 books I've put on the bookshelf with a potted plant above is going to be there in the final? Maybe not, but I think you can imagine around that. So those are the kind of things where, and I'm with Design Master Plan, I want to mention that too, because with long distance clients, of course, you are trusting their measurements and they might suck at measuring.
Yes.
Not everybody measures to the same level we do. So I'm always very clear on any of my drawings. I got even for in-person projects, big fat disclaimer that these are design drawings only. They are not construction drawings. Do not build off of these. Like, these are for us to discuss and to show you what we're thinking. But we are not contractors. We are not architects. Yes, I have a design degree. I'm a trained designer. But when I'm working with someone else's measurements and someone else's information, I am trusting them to look at what I've done, understand what it means for them, and make it happen in real life. But I'm always very clear. Double check the measurements. Double check your doorways. Don't place any orders. Look at my plan. Check it in your own space first. Thankfully, I've never had a problem with this. But again, it's because I'm very upfront and clear that you are taking some of this ownership, because I can't be there to verify it myself, and I'm doing the best I can with what I was given. But if site conditions are different from the information I've received, things might need to flex. Clients love that. They love that I'm honest about it. Yes, it does.
My goodness, I swear to goodness, I literally twice a month, literally, no joke, installer comes walking back into WindowWorks and we're like, oh, how did it go? Well, the drape in bedroom number 2 couldn't be hung. How come? Well, because the designer put a sconce there and never told anybody. And we're like, yay! Or the homeowner did this and didn't tell anybody. And the crazy thing is before, like, cell phones and everybody taking before and after pictures, we'd be in these debates with people. And now, Kim pulls out her phone. She's like, you mean this wall where there was a sconce there all the time? That one where there's no sconce? That wall? Okay. You know what I'm saying? But so I love, you're just being very clear. It's, and isn't that the heart of like 800 conversations on the show? Isn't it though? Like, have the conversations up front before everybody is sticky, because up front, it's up front, and somebody can decide that, oh, I don't want to be responsible for the measurements. If I work with you because you're 2 states away, I have to be responsible for the measurements. Well, that's a great time to know that, right? Okay, thank you. Do you have a recommendation for somebody in my state? You don't worry about that, right? You give the recommendation and move on.
Well, and that's why connection matters so much, because I need to be able to have these honest conversations, and they're not conversations meant to scare people off or freak them out, but we need to have enough of a connection and a trust where I can say these things and it's not met with, hesitation or frustration. They're like, yeah, we understand. Great. We trust you. This is we get it. We're all on board. And so
Mhm.
that's why that filter, man, if there's not that connection, or if I get weird vibes from
Yes.
people on our initial call, I'm very leery to do work with them until we can kind of get past that, or they kind of weed themselves out and go away. But that is, for me, an absolute essential in a successful project, long distance or otherwise, is having a connection with clients. Doesn't mean we have to be like having sleepovers and, being best buddies, but there has to, like there has to be a
Yes.
friendliness and a rapport there, that this cannot be a formal transactional interaction.
Right.
This is we're in your underwear drawer. Like, this is your home, your most intimate spaces, and it's your money we're dealing with. So that click has to be there, and that's when these conversations can happen without fear, without weirdness, and just transparency. And it only builds the connection, the trust, to be honest with your clients like that, and to have those conversations that are going to help everybody have a better
Mm.
experience.
Yeah. It's so true. And the thing is, we always say it, when you when you don't leave things out, when you don't leave things to chance, when you have the difficult part of the conversation, which is, I need you to understand that you're 100% responsible for these measurements, or I need you to understand that by going with the design master plan, you're going to place all the orders on your own, or I need you to understand, if you're doing full service luxury, then I'm doing everything, and don't get in the middle of me, right? Like it's like, just say it up in the beginning, because then the person can make up their mind. And it's so funny, because it reminds me, when I had my hip replaced last year, at my third or fourth visit with the doctor that was going to do it. I interviewed 3 doctors, because the same thing. Like, somebody said to me, "You're going to be doing follow up for the hip for 10 years, so you gotta." Oh, my orthopedist said, he goes, "You gotta like this doctor. You're going to have a relationship for 10 years. You have to trust the doctor, whoever is blah blah blah." And so I interview all these doctors, and the second or third time I'm back to this guy and doing all the pre-op and everything, and then finally it is literally the Friday before the surgery, on Wednesday the next week. And he's like, "I would love for you to bring, if you're married, bring your husband to this visit." I'm like, "Okay," and I'm saying to Vinny, "You got to come." He's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, he wants you there." Right. And I understood almost at the end of our meeting why he wanted him there, because here we are with the final thing. He wants one more x-ray, so it's like, your final thing, let me check the measurements, blah blah blah. And he says, "You have any questions?" And of course, Vin had a couple of questions, and this and that and the other thing. And finally, we're like, we're done. And he goes, "Okay, everything's good." He goes, "Now we have to have the hard conversation." And I was like, "Oh." And he goes, "I need to
Mm.
tell you the things that could go wrong." And here it comes. And you're just like, whoa, those are some pretty crazy things that could go wrong, right? And the thing was, he was making sure that both of us heard it, that it was at a quiet moment, had our attention, and was like, "And this was the thing I'm leaving you with." And then, of course, he left it with, "None of these I expect to happen. This is not," but it wasn't like buried in the third conversation on the second visit. "And by the way, you could have this happen." He made it so clear. And it was like, "And so, would you like me to take your hip out next Wednesday?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay, do it." You know what I'm saying? So,
I
if
love that you mentioned that.
right? Because if he
Yeah,
can do
and,
that, if he can look at me and tell me the crazy pants stuff that could happen in a surgery of that level, then I think you can say, you really have to be responsible for the measurements, or whatever it is, right? Or you have to have the rendering. I'm not taking that out of my services, right?
Yep. And you made a great point about this doctor insisting that your partner be there,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a newer policy that, again, from the advice of a coach, because I've made lots of mistakes with this before too. I now insist that all decision makers, financial or otherwise, if someone has an input on designer finances, that they are part of our consultation call. They are at our consultation, and I have their email, so they are looped into every conversation, because that is also part of why this is working. And that's been such a natural thing now that I forgot about it, but I love that you
Mm.
made that point,
Mm-hmm.
because I've had it so many times where half of the couple has hired me.
Mm.
We have a great rapport, we have great meetings. I send over a proposal or a quote, and the partner goes, "No." And
Yep.
that's the end of it.
And you've
And
spent the
so
time and the
this is
money.
one of those. Yes, this is one of those stand in your space things where I now insist on this.
Right.
And most clients are great about it. And of course, there are exceptions. I have a lot of clients in the medical profession. I understand that a doctor in surgery cannot leave to be at a phone call. Totally fine. But I'm getting better clients and having better experiences when both decision makers, assuming it's a married couple, partnership, whatever, when they are on board from day one. And if they decide to defer and there is one decision maker, I'm fine with that too. It's like they can figure out however they want to do it on their end. But if there's two people that are going to have opinions, they are going to be part of as many phone or Zoom or in-person meetings as possible, and they will both be on every email I send.
Right, right. I love this. Laura Michaels talked about this. I don't remember her episode number,
Mm.
but she talked about it also, that both people have to be there, or, at that design. I don't remember which point. Hers from 3 or 4 years ago, but I'll put the episode in the show notes as well, because she talked about that conversation and how you do it. And Lesley, is that something that you grew into too? See, what I'm always looking for is, I love when people like yourself and Sandra Funk and all the others come and explain to us how they do it now. But I love to share that in between time when, I started to say that both had to be there, and sometimes they would and sometimes they wouldn't. And there I am, I'm at the meeting and they both said they would come, but they didn't. Was there a point where you just said, okay, I get that the other one can't be there, but we've got to cancel the meeting? Like, there has to be a point when you actually start to say, yep, I get it. Things happen, but we're going to reschedule. Am I right? Or how does that evolution go?
Yeah, and you're right that there is kind of a sensitivity to this
Mm-hmm.
where I can usually tell. I mean, I think we can kind of get a sense from initial conversations, emails, whatever it might be that your onboarding process is. I think you can tell when people are genuinely trying to make it work and scheduling conflicts or whatever
Great
won't
point.
allow it versus when they're just kind of being wieners, like when they're
Okay,
just being
this is a great
difficult.
point. That's a great point. I love that, because your intuition tells you if something is wiggy is happening, and if these people are not on board together, and then you're the roadkill because they're not on board together. And then that's the place, right, Lesley, to rope it back in and
Yes.
say, we've got to have these meetings together. I get you. Great point. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
it's
will
when we
say if
ignore
I
that,
know,
right? It's when we ignore
yeah.
that. We see the red flag that the two decision makers are not on the same page and they're not coming to the meetings together, and the repercussions and the domino effect afterwards, and then we ignore it, right?
Exactly. And if there are, you get a lot of information from that initial consultation call and an intake form. And if I know it's a consultation only project, like they just need me for 2 hours, we're not even talking about working together beyond that. If half the couple doesn't show up, fine, so be
Right,
it. I'll
right, right.
knock their socks off in 2 hours. They can do with that what they want. If this project is clearly leaning towards a future beyond an initial consultation or initial proposal, whatever that might look like, that's when I get a little bit firmer about all decision makers being present and kind of weigh it on a case by case basis. I've never had somebody flat out lie to me and say they're going to be there and oh no, so and so couldn't be. Like that hasn't happened. And like I said, there's situations where people try to make it work and I get that it can't always, and I just make sure that any follow up to those meetings, any documents are emailed to both parties. So far that has been a worthy kind of rule to have in my business, is to insist on this and to treat that as kind of a filter or it is a red flag. You're right. If they really push on this or there's something weird about it, it's never going to be a successful project.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then one final question before I let you go. I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but let me ask you this one thing. How are you billing for this? Are you having a discovery call, then setting a price and getting the payment in full and then delivering the deliverable? Or are you taking deposit? Just run us through how you execute payment on this.
Yeah, this is something that I've gotten cleaner and clearer and much better on throughout the years. It is very simple. If it's design master plan, there is a flat fee for the project. We take 50% to initiate the project, and we take 50% at the conceptual design meeting. So we are paid in full halfway through the project. The clients have seen the concept design. They love it. They love us. We're all good. And that's been really smooth and easy. And again, that was something I learned from Sandra Funk. That's her model. If it's a full service project, I've modified it a little bit to work for me because I didn't love collecting full payment that early when we're going to be working on the project for another 6 or 8 months. So I just do it in thirds, a third of the design fee to start the project, a third at the concept design meeting, and that remaining third at our detailed design meeting, plus whatever goods they're purchasing through us is also due in full that day. I'm very clear about payment terms, when it's expected. It's in our onboarding presentation, it's in our agreement. They get reminded in their weekly emails when payments are due. And that has been great for cash flow. I can
Right?
confirm that. It's a good model that's worked really well for me.
Okay. And I said it was my last question, but I have one more. so, so do you also have this structured down? Like I remember Sarah Brennan was on the show, and basically from like when you have your initial project kickoff, she tells you the like right there you make the date for when you're going to have the design conception meeting, and then when that is completed, she tells you the date when you're going to have the full design delivered to you, whether it's 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it is. But she has her back end where this cranks out at certain times. So do you have it that way as well, Lesley?
Absolutely. And actually, they know from project kickoff when their concept design meeting is and when their detailed design meeting is.
Love it.
I get that all scheduled on the front end so that we all know the deadlines, the expectations. They know when they're going to get oh my gosh, years ago I didn't do that, and it was just whenever I was ready, I would be like,
Right.
"We're good to have a presentation." People hated that,
Right.
shockingly.
Right.
So this has been very successful, and I'm someone that I'm very outside motivated, like external deadlines, calendars, that stuff is good for me. So I love this planning where I have a Gantt chart for my whole year. I know typically concept design, assuming it's like 1 to 3 rooms and not a whole home, is usually about a 3 to 4 week process. Detailed designs about that as well. I buffer in some time to give them a week to review each phase, give me feedback, and I can know upfront exactly when all these meetings are, get them on the calendar. The clients know when payments are due, they know when their deliverables are coming. Things have been cranking like a well-oiled machine, and I'm very, very happy to say that.
I love it. I love it. So good. I can see the influence of Sandra in your language and different, not to take anything away from your own experience and the other places that you worked before you went on your own and the other business coaches that you've had. But because I know Sandra so well, I can hear the influence in her
Yeah.
in there. So it's awesome. Really love it. Well, I have to say, I'm really glad for you. I hear the joy, I see the joy in your face, and I hear the joy about how it's just made doing what you do for a living even that much more fun. And you're able to raise your two little kids and have a life at nights and weekends and all the things. So good for you, Lesley. Good for
Yep.
you. Thank you for sharing this with
Thank
us, too.
you. Oh, my pleasure. I hope it's helpful. I know these are hard things to step into and make these changes and say this is how we're doing it, but it's working great for me. I'm a big believer in take what you like and leave the rest. If nothing resonated, there's plenty of other ways to run a business, but hopefully there are some things in here that are helpful for people who are
Yeah.
maybe struggling with not having a life or feeling taken advantage of or just that things aren't working the way they want.
Yeah, no, 100%. There's definitely takeaways here. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Lesley. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you, LuAnn. It's always my pleasure.
You know what I love about Lesley? I mean, well, there's a lot of things I love about her, truthfully. But you know what? One of the things is she knows who she is, and she is unapologetically herself, both as a person and as a business person. Right? It's not always easy to stand firm in who you are. And while Lesley would be the first to tell you that she's made her fair share of mistakes along the way, she's learned from each of them, taking those lessons and using them to create a business that she is passionate about. That is everything she loves about design and none of the things that she doesn't love. Right? We can sit here and talk about what it takes to run a business all day long. And while many of those lessons are applicable across the board, some are not. Right? You have to take what works for you and create the business that you feel good about. It might not look like every other designer's business, but when you can stand in your space, your Sandra Funk space, right? Remember she said that back to us back in episode 3? When you are clear about and you feel strongly about what you offer, now you're on your way to success, to your success. And you know what happens? This directly increases your confidence, your ability to set expectations for your clients, and ultimately your ability to charge what you are worth and never compromise on your values. You heard Lesley mention her core values: adventure, organization, and connection. She's created the design master plan in accordance with these values, and you can hear the passion and the way those values show up when she talks about it. And the more we spoke, the more I was struck with the idea that what Lesley is talking about here are really her non-negotiables, her principles, her lessons that she has learned. And as she has started this service, are the same factors that play into a successful full service project as well, right? And essentially, it is full service minus the actual procurement. It goes to show that there are a lot of ways to skin a cat, but the principles that create a solid business always apply. I love that. And I have to say, in real life, many of you have said to me, you listen to the show and you know, week after week, and you just don't know where to start. And you feel like you have to do everything. And you don't. And this proves it. You can take away the things that feel right for you and apply them. You don't have to do everything, all right? The other little nuance that Lesley mentioned was about pricing. She pointed out that earlier in her business journey, she realized that charging hourly opened the door to having to justify her work. She ended up compromising as a result. She lost money. She ended up doing work for no additional fee. For her, moving to a flat fee made sense. Of course, if charging hourly works for you, do you. Okay. But there's a truth to what Lesley said. You don't want to be in a position where you have to argue your own worth or justify the work you put in. As a business owner, you don't want to be on the clock. So if you're going to charge hourly, you have to do some little extra lifting to establish those expectations up front so that you can avoid the potential for debates on the value of your hourly fee, right? I know that Sandra Funk shares these sentiments with Lesley. And of course, since Lesley is a student of Sandra's, I can hear Sandra's influence on Lesley, right? And I would have to say, if this interests you, if you want to learn more from Sandra, go to the show notes. We've put all of her episodes there. You know, literally some of the most downloaded episodes in the 800 plus episodes on the show. All right. The largest contributor to a successful business transaction is how you establish the expectations with your client at the beginning. It is the most efficient way to avoid pushback, to keep that client experience top notch, and to make sure that everyone is happy. Lesley works hard to do this, establishing the pricing model early in the calls, communicating the process all along the way, and even laying out the dates for the conceptual design meeting up front. High five on all those things. Okay. I also love that she pointed out that she expects all decision makers to be a part of every meeting, every decision, every point of communication. All right. If you want to learn more about this and how to introduce this conversation to your clients, Laura Michaels was on the show, episode 372, and she's got some tips for you in that show. Another takeaway is how Lesley insists now that she wants 3D renderings part of every project. She's just decided it's a non-negotiable. All right. It's her option to do it. If you're looking for someone to do 3D renders for you, don't forget about Fernando Duque of Duke Renders. He was here in episode 722. I cannot even tell you how amazing his renderings are. Okay. So if you're interested in that and leveling up your renderings, check out that episode. Lesley also pointed out that some designers don't feel like that they like to include 3D renderings because it might, set unrealistic expectations. Okay. So it's like the catch-22. The rendering is so realistic that when somebody sees a specific thing in there, they're like, well, where is that thing when the room is done? This is what you've got to come to terms with. These are the parts, right? Some things are non-negotiable. You got to know your money. You got to, have a smart marketing plan. You got to have a great process. You have to know your finance and how to run the back end of your business, right? But whether you insist on renderings or not, this is where you don't need to lose sleep over this. Do you? Okay, do you? Try it. If it makes it better, great. If it doesn't, don't do it. Okay. I think that is the ultimate lesson from Lesley is do you. Try it all, see what feels good, figure out the way you want to work with your clients. It's just that it does have to be in an organized, duplicatable way, because you can't do it once amazing, hit it out the park, and not remember how to do it the next time. That's the key, right? All right. I got to say, Lesley, thank you so much for more insights. All right. Thank you. Thank you for showing up again, Lesley, and being willing to teach all of us. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for listening too. And another reminder, just a shout out, that the new Window Treatment podcast is live, Window Treatments for Profit. All right. You can go to my website, LuAnnNigara.com. You can see it there. You can go to your Apple, iHeart, Spotify, all the places. But I encourage you, if you are a window treatment professional, to check this show out. And even if you're not, we have recurring guest appearances by Vita Vykovska and Madeline McRae, C-Suite Talks with Madeline McRae, and Vita's Tips in 10. So these are universal business tips coming out every single week on Wednesday and Thursdays. And then Monday is an interview with a window treatment professional. So like seriously, and those shows with Vita and Madeline, 10 to 15 minutes a piece. And I'm telling you, they are good for all all professionals in our industry. So interior designer, window treatment professional, graphic designer, all the things, all of you lovelies that come out and hang with me. I love it. I love it. I love it. All righty. Thank you so much for joining me today. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.